As a tech reviewer here on YouTube, you obviously have to play the game. So whenever there's a new equipment coming out that everybody's interested in, I grab it, I do as much testing as I can. But obviously, since time is of the essence, I'm trying to get that video out as soon as possible. And naturally, when having used that item, I obviously didn't use it to an extent where I would have loved to make a full review on it. So most of the times, I'm actually doing a 6 months later review. And this is my 6 months later review for the DJI RS2 alongside the Tilta advanced ring grip, because now I have had the time and I've been using this for commercials, for music videos, for documentary shoots, for this YouTube channel, a lot. Is it really my favorite setup as I claimed in the original review? Let's find out. My name is Damien Cooper and welcome to Monkey Pixel. When the RS2 first came out, I wanted to use it with a Canon C300 Mark III, and I did for the longest time, and it kind of worked, but not 100%, because I didn't have enough clearance to go into underslung mode, for example. That isn't an issue anymore now that I have the advanced ring grip, because, well, you can't go into underslung mode, and you don't have to tilt the gimbal as much to the front as you would when just holding it as a one-handed gimbal. So technically, yes, the Canon C300 Mark III works with the gimbal and the ring, and it's actually a quite decent setup, especially with the remote control on the right side of the gimbal, because you can actually detach the side grip of the Canon C300 Mark III, attach it to the gimbal ring, and then control the camera with it. But since I got the Canon C70, I think the C70 is a much better fit for the gimbal because it's smaller and it has better autofocus functions, and I use autofocus a lot when shooting on a gimbal. So therefore, pretty much all of the clips that you see in this video are produced with the DJI RS2 alongside the Tilta ring grip and the Canon C70. The obvious idea of these long-term reviews is that now that I had a lot more time with the setup, and I really did have a lot more time with the setup because I used it on a frozen lake filming for a documentary at -14 degrees Celsius. I used it for commercials, music videos, the YouTube channel, regular client work, all of it. I also traveled with it a lot, so now I have a lot more experience and shooting hours with this setup. So naturally, there should be a lot of things that now I discovered that I don't like, that I didn't really find in the beginning. And for this setup, I just didn't. I really do think it's the near perfect setup and everything is well thought out, and especially working with my Canon C70, everything works almost flawlessly. Let's start with the ring grip first, and let me tell you what I really like about it. I really love shooting with the ring grip and the ergonomics that it gives me, and I much prefer it over a one-handed gimbal setup. I like having the option to go low angle and just use the top handle, but also when I want to shoot some mid to high level shots, then I just grab both handles at the same time and have the perfect weight distribution, and that makes shooting with it, especially for longer takes, so much easier. The fact that I can control the entire gimbal with the remote grip is a huge bonus, and that makes it so much better than some alternatives online that don't have that option. Furthermore, the ability to start and stop recording on my Canon C70 via the side handle is also something that makes shooting with the entire setup so much more convenient. I also really like that the entire ring is very lightweight and sturdy, so I can just put it down and I don't have to worry about it falling over, and that makes shooting on longer takes a lot more convenient because whenever I don't want to shoot, I just put it down on the side, I can change settings, I can rebalance the gimbal, and I don't have to worry about it falling off or having to fiddle with a small tripod underneath a one-handed gimbal. But probably the thing that I like the most about the ring setup is all of my different mounting options. I like shooting with an external monitor, I also like to record audio with a shotgun microphone, and sometimes I also add HDMI wireless transmitters or even timecode. And with the ring, I can attach everything to the ring and don't have to worry about anything. The fact that the side remote also has 2 NATO rails is even cooler, because if I wanted to, I could attach an external follow focus or a motor to control my VNDs with it. So if I had to find anything that I don't 100% like about the ring, is that you can't get low enough to the ground. So if you want to have these extreme low angle shots, it's just not possible with the ring because you can't get low enough to the ground. And number 2, you have to check if everything is tightened before you shoot, because sometimes Sometimes I did get some micro jitters, but that was more of my fault for not tightening everything up, and especially I'm talking about the connection of the DJI RS2 and the ring grip itself, because I never really disassemble the whole setup and I just throw it on my backseat of my car and I just drive to locations with it, and sometimes stuff gets a little bit loose, so you have to tighten everything before a shoot. But that's also not really a downside, and overall I couldn't be happier with the ring grip by Tilta. Now let's briefly move on to the gimbal itself. And again, I have used it a lot and I can't really say anything negative about it. I think it's great that such a small gimbal packs so much punch, and I can easily balance my Canon C70 with it, or even a Canon C300 Mark III if I wanted to. I also never had any problems with the smoothness of my footage or the battery life. The battery life is actually quite amazing, and as I've already mentioned, we filmed with -14 degrees on a frozen lake, and for this entire trip I only used one battery charge without having to recharge it, even though we shot for 3 days. We didn't really shoot for long times because it was way too cold, but even in that cold, the thing was absolutely reliable and I had no issues with it. So as you can see, I really do like the gimbal. So now let's move on to the things I don't like about it. There's two things I don't like about the gimbal, and both are related to the base plate. Number one, the original base plate is not compatible with any of my Manfrotto fluid heads, so I have to constantly get rid of it and then attach it to a Manfrotto base plate to use it on a gimbal and switch from gimbal to tripod work. The second thing I don't like about it is that you only have one screw to actually screw it onto your camera, and that is not secure and it got loose a lot. So when doing a lot of fast movements, the camera is just shaking and wobbling around. So this one for my Canon C70 setup, I exchanged it with a plate from Tilta, and this one has 2 screws, so I can just screw it onto my Tilta cage, and it's also quick release, so I can just easily get rid of it. But you can watch my entire Canon C70 rig tour video, and I talk about the whole setup, how I go quickly from tripod to gimbal in less than a minute. So those again are just minor things that could easily be fixed with some third-party accessories, which I did, and now I feel like I have the perfect setup to go from gimbal to tripod. But realistically, most of the times my Canon C70 just lives on the gimbal, and I use my Canon C300 Mark III for tripod and handheld work. After a couple of you guys sent me DMs on Instagram asking if this is still my favorite setup and if it is worth the wait. And speaking of Instagram, here's my Instagram handle if you want to follow me and ask me similar questions. And my answer is yes, it is worth the wait. Go ahead, order it, because I think that this combination is the near perfect setup for basically everything, unless you have a really big rigged out camera. But for the Canon C70, even a stripped down Canon C300 Mark III, and obviously all of the mirrorless cameras out there, I think this is the perfect setup, and I don't have any regrets or any complaints. So there you have it. If you found this video helpful, then please give it a thumbs up because it really helps the channel grow. Subscribe for more, and I hope to see you on the next one. No, I didn't forget it. It worked.